Yo, what is going on, you guys? So today I'm bringing guys a brand new sports cards video. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the major dangers in buying recent years numbered cards and why I believe that you should not buy a card just because it's numbered. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into this video. All right, guys. So as you guys are probably aware, pop counts have been getting, higher and higher each and every year, at least for the last, 4 or 5 years since the start of the big sports card boom. And there are a couple statistics that I found very alarming that I'll use to kind of kick off this video. If you guys look at a list of the total number of parallels from each year's Prism basketball, we've seen the same trends in baseball and football amongst their popular sets, but this is just something to get things into perspective. If you look at 2012, this was the first year of NBA Prism basketball. There were only 3 parallels. You had the silvers, you had the greens, you had the golds, and that was it. So all the market focus was on those 3 cards. Now, of course, fast forward to 2023, 2024, there are 63 different parallels. A very high number of these 63 parallels are numbered cards. And overall, not only that, but aside from Prism, there are a lot more sets of basketball cards than there were in 2012, 2013. So 2012, 2013, there was mainly NBA hoops. You barely had Select. You had one variation of Select, whereas now you have many different variations of Select. You have Optic, you have Donruss, you have so many different products in 2023, 24, and that is leading to some extremely high pop counts. If you look at, for example, Victor Wembanyama's 2023 Prism, this card just released, not too long ago, less than a year ago, and this card right here has already a pop count of over 23,000 PSA 10s. And not only that, a much higher percentage are grading PSA 10s as opposed to PSA 9s and lower. So we see more than double the amount of PSA 10s than PSA 9s. If you look at, for example, a 2012 Prism card, which is the first year of Prism, you saw, a much more balanced pop count. So you see, around 20x the amount of PSA 10s for a card that released last year compared to a card that released in 2012. So you can see how there has to be a lot more demand on a Victor Wembanyama card than a Kawhi Leonard card for prices to be around even. And that goes for not only obviously like 2012 Prism, but early year Prisms, I think should have a much bigger premium than they currently do. If we look at Kawhi Leonard's card, for example, you can get a PSA 10 for under $100. This guy's a 2-time Finals MVP. And if you look at, Victor Wembanyama, you still see his price is pretty high for a pop, 23,000 in a Prism-based PSA 10. Not only this, we're seeing a vast majority, of his Prism cards have overall very solid grades. Of course, you can look and find some that are a little bit tougher to grade, but across the board, you're seeing a much more solid percentage of them getting PSA 10s. Now, what does this kind of mean for investors out there? I would say you have to be a lot more picky with choosing who you are going to invest in. Because if you not only look at, Victor Wembanyama's Prism cards, if you look across his selects, you're going to see so many parallels. If you look across his optics, you're going to see so many parallels. And there's just kind of become an influx of, I would say, too many options to choose from if you're an investor. And you don't want that, because what essentially happens is that there has to be demand on all of Victor Wembanyama's cards for all of them to hold up in price. And we're just not seeing that happen across the board. And even you see a lot of these numbered cards, for example, you can get, a numbered white Prism from Select out of 149, but you're just not seeing them hold the premium that they would usually have. If this was, for example, a 2012 card out of 149, you would see a much higher premium than you're seeing right now, because of course you have different levels. You have club level, you have select level, you have field levels for football. You have so many different levels of Select and so many different parallels for each level that it's kind of becoming, a little bit overwhelming for the market to assume all of this supply and keep the demand up to meet the supply, because these continue to get graded day by day. And, we're seeing even quote unquote supposedly rare parallels already hitting, 1,000 plus pop counts very quickly. And that has led to a lot of players like this go down in price a lot. So we see Victor Wembanyama's, select silvers, and overall his market is down roughly 30% over the last 90 days. Across the board, his prices are collapsing, and he's playing pretty well. He had a 50-point game recently. He's still showing the same, I guess, upside that he's, shown over the last years. But the issue that comes down to why his prices are not going up has to be the pop count and these quote unquote numbered cards that are still not holding up. Even, if you look across the board to, his Prism Blue out of 199 or his Prism Red or whatever parallel you want to look at that's numbered, they're still not holding up, and you're still seeing these dips in price. Some of these cards that were preseason around a 6K card, you are seeing now the last sale is 4,300 for Victor Wembanyama's Blue Prism and a PSA 10. And you could argue, this is only a Pop 54. This is a rare Victor Wembanyama sports card. The issue that boils down to it is not that this card is a Pop 54, but it's that investors have so many more options to invest in that you don't have as much demand on any singular card because the demand's getting spread too thin. And I think, even if you find these very low pop cards, you can still see that, there's just too much supply for demand to really keep up across the board, and that's causing all of Victor Wembanyama's cards to come down in price. I think what we are currently going to see is a lot of people pick their favorites for cards to invest in and for parallels that they actually like, and are going to hold that premium. And I think we're really starting to see golds separate from other parallels. We're starting to see a premium for gold prisms compared to other prisms. Compared to even the out of 5 black golds, you don't see them holding up as well. You don't see the tie-dyes holding up as well. I think there's too much supply that needs to be caught up for the other parallels, but you're still seeing the high-end cards such as Prism Gold out of 10s that people just love. Those are still holding up pretty well, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward, because if the market does continue to shift towards Prism Golds, across the board, we could see a big shift in demand away from a lot of other parallels and towards those one-of-ones, those golds, and those rare cards in general. You're also seeing silvers still hold kind of like the weight that they've always held. Of course, the pop counts are still pretty high on those, but you're seeing them hold up a lot better. You're not seeing as big as price decreases as you're seeing for other parallels. If you look at Victor Wembanyama's Prism Silvers in a PSA 10, for example, this parallel is still pretty coveted, as you can see. They've gone down, but they haven't really gone down too much. Preseason, this card was just around, 900 to 1,000. You've seen it come down a little bit. You've seen it come down to around the $700 to $800 range, but it's holding up a little bit better than the Prism Base, for example. So I think we're going to start to see the amount of parallels that people really care for start to decrease. I think any random, numbered card, just because it's numbered, I don't think it's safe anymore. I just don't think, if you look at some of these other parallels that are quote unquote numbered, the Aqua Optics, you can look at the Seismics. I think the Seismics people are really going away from. These are seeing much steeper declines. This card right here, $1,200 card over the offseason, $600 card now. We're starting to see a lot of people head away from these quote-unquote numbered rare cards that don't really hold as much demand as the cards that people really like, which of course, you've got the higher end like the golds and the 101 black. You've got those that are always going to hold their premium, but I think people are really narrowing down their taste on what parallels should go for more and which parallels should not go for as much. So we're seeing so many cards across the board take, big hits because of this. And I think that really includes the red as well. This card is a very rare card out of 299. Hypothetically, if a blue is out of 199, you have another parallel out of 299. This card should be almost the same price as the blue. But that's just not the case. People don't like the red as much as the blue. People are choosing the blues over the reds, and the reds are seeing bigger declines than the blues. This card was a $3,000 card, and it continues to come down. It's in the low twos, low to mid twos right now. But I think overall, having a red half the price of a Prism Blue around is just a pretty, vastly wake-up call, in my opinion, where it's like, which cards is the hobby going to go towards? Because not all these numbered cards can be considered, rare and hold that same premium, because there are just too many numbered cards. You can look out of any number, out of $4.99, out of $9.99, out of $99, out of $25, out of $49. There's multiple cards, for each of these numbers, quote unquote numbers. So I just think, Panini, it's going to be very, very interesting, I would say, to see what happens with this over time, because if this continues to increase, we've seen year after year, besides a few years where, stuff came down a little bit, but we're seeing year after year, these numbers go up. And we're seeing the trend continue to rise. So it's like, if we continue to see this trend rise over time, if there are 100 parallels down the line, how much demand are we going to need for us to see prices go up, let alone stay the same? We're going to really have to, either the hobby's going to have to make the choice and become picky on which cards they go after, or Panini's going to have to cut some of these, which is the biggest thing that comes down to it, is whether Panini's willing to take a revenue cut to release less cards, and to sell less boxes. And that's going to be the question that we have yet to really see an answer for. We see the answer so far has been, we're going to keep printing more and more because the demand is there. And while the demand is still there for the boxes, the demand's mainly there for the boxes because of the Prism Golds and the Black 101s that people are chasing. But I just don't think a lot of these other cards are chases anymore. I just think there are too many cards out there, too many choices, size mix, even the trues you're seeing too many of. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But I just kind of wanted to make this video to let you guys know that, if you're buying a card solely because it's numbered, or you think your investment is safe because your card is numbered, I would urge you to get away from that frame of mind, because it can be really detrimental if you continue to think your cards are super rare, even though there's so many different parallels and the demand is just, it has to eat up all of these different parallels for the prices to stay the same. If you don't have enough buyers on some of these parallels, the prices are going to drop a lot. We saw a lot of these cards that came out really, really strong that are now softening up a little bit, and kind of I think the market's realizing that, man, if Victor Wembanyama is even playing amazing, how much can we buy of these cards? And if, let alone, he gets injured or something bad happens with his career, I just don't see people eating up all of these different parallels, all of these 63 parallels for Prism alone, let alone Select, Obsidian, Optic, all these other products. So I think we're also seeing a little bit of a decline in the interest for other products, because how much can people absorb in terms of supply? So we're seeing, if we went back to 2016, 2017, when Optic was pretty fresh, you saw Optic cards sell for a very big premium. Now you can see a Victor Wembanyama PSA 10 perfect grade Optic rookie card, one of the most important sets of our generation. This card's like a $40, $50 card. So we're seeing a lot of, the market react to what's happening with, the printing in the industry. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Is Panini able to get this number back down towards, 10 to 20, I think would be reasonable. Even 20 to 30, potentially reasonable. I think at 63 parallels for Prism alone, and then let alone you have all the other, products, I just think it's becoming really tough for the numbers to work out. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of these, cards just not be the same compared to what they would have been if they were released, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I hope that you guys took something from this video. If you enjoyed, drop a like and subscribe. I really appreciate all the support recently. We are on our way to 60,000 subscribers. So if you guys enjoyed, a subscription would really mean a lot to me. But other than that, I hope y'all enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.